Hello and welcome to In the Flow, Season 2, Episode 2, where Robin Wilt and Jessica Kay will discuss today what has been going on. Because there's a lot of, I feel like the universe is asking us to slow down. And then the question is, are we going to be with ourselves or are we going to abandon ourselves again? So, little bit of fun, little bit of getting into the depths, but that's where we're at today. So, Robin, what you thinking?
So many things. I love that you keep saying that a lot of us are learning right now, like not to abandon ourselves, because that seems very important. So one of the things that keeps coming up for me is like in relationships, especially with dating, is being really in tune. And you and I chatted a little bit about this like offline. But I think it's important in all relationships, like what are the things that are kind of the non-negotiables for us, or having, right? It's good to be flexible. It's good to understand people's perspectives. Like there's so many things, but also there is a certain standard that we want for people to show up in our lives with. And especially if it is dating, right? That's like the most intimate relationship that we have with anybody. So it's like we may end up holding that person to a higher set of standards than we do acquaintances or friends because you're sharing so much energy and intimacy with that person. So for me, one of the things that came up yesterday was just,
You are frozen. All right, you're back.
yeah,
So
something
go
that was,
ahead and, yeah,
yeah,
say so for me. Do that and
yeah.
I'll cut out.
Sorry, my finger hit the wrong button. So for me, what has been showing up is what I need in relationships when I'm dating. So I noticed yesterday, I just started to get curious about, okay, well, if I'm meeting somebody or if I'm going out with somebody, like what's the amount of time that I will give them as right, like reasonable for being late. And especially, I'm not talking about, hey, somebody texts you and right, because I do it all the time. Like I'm very fluid with time. Um, Somebody says like, hey, within this window, or um, hey, I'm going to be half an hour late, right? If it's not something that you're like actually sitting somewhere waiting for somebody, like if you're sitting there waiting for somebody, like what's your threshold of allowability for lateness? And I kind of realized I think mine's probably about 10 minutes, especially if, right, if it is like you're building that trust with somebody or you're building that connection, it's like if you're not going to explain to me why you're 35 minutes late, I'm probably only going to give you 10 minutes as like a, hey, I don't need an explanation. Yeah. So, right, there's just, feel like getting clear on what it is that is important to you because it's not even necessarily 10 minutes. It's like, what does that mean to you? Right. It can show you like somebody's communication. It can show you what they value. It can show you how they deal with conflict. Like there's so many things that come up when you start to kind of lay these little um, ground rules. I I was talking with a friend yesterday and she was saying that like a guy was telling her that he was testing her and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds really icky to me." Because I think things are going to naturally come up. Like I don't think we need to test anybody or to make some like to try to set somebody up um to make a mistake or whatever, because those things are going to continue to come up as you spend time with somebody and as you build that connection and as you build trust. Um, so I think a lot of us are kind of moving through that right now. Like, what is it that we need? Are we asking for those things from people? Are we making those things clear? How are we showing up when somebody isn't? coming forward with those qualities and traits that we want. So, I mean, for me, it shows up in dating. Like, what's that, what area do you feel like that's showing up for you, Jessica, or has it shown
Um,
up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just we're just talking boundaries, right? Like all of
Yeah.
this is about, ground rules, whatever it is, it's all about the boundaries that allow us to feel safe and our nervous system to feel safe in our relationships. So for me, I like to there's just so many domains to life, right? So there's work, there's friendships, there's relationship, whether that's dating, whether that's marriage. And so I see things kind of across, like stuff shows up in many ways, and that really helps me pull it away from the person and really make it about what I can do. So I like that about how I would it's not like the game I play with the universe, but it's like how the universe and I allow each other to be curious and have fun and I get to learn. So the way I learn best is I will kind of zero in on stuff and make it about a person or a thing. So it's best for me to kind of see it across many places.
Hmm.
And I'll just kind of speak about my arc in this process. It's easy for it to be about in the relationship or about different groups, but it was really difficult for me to set boundaries at work because that's money, right? And if I don't meet the whatever, I could get fired, I could get written up. So it was really challenging for me to speak my truth at work and for me to set boundaries to protect myself. And to allow myself, I say protect myself. There's a little damage there. I can sense that with my language, but more so that I feel safe and my nervous system can relax and I can be the best person that I can possibly be. So all of that to say, like that's the hardest place for me is with work. And also, it's like, where is the wounding showing up? So, my current crucibles are relationships and work. Like I said, everything kind of happens in a lot of different ways. And I realize it's around time. A lot of it is around self-abandonment. And that's kind of why I mentioned it at the beginning, because even more like the next step for me was like, this is not happening to you. There's not a person doing any of this to you, and it's not your job, and it's not your boss or your boss's boss. Like, it is you. So I was like, oh, okay. So if I am the one that I need to set boundaries with so that I don't abandon myself, so that I'm taking care of myself, like what do my boundaries look like for myself?
Hmm.
And I have a long history of putting others before me. And that comes from whatever, childhood, whatever. It comes from a lot of things, comes from being, a woman and all of these different things. But I've decided I'm going to stop doing it. So I'm becoming a little bit more kind of radical in how I approach these things. And um, it is, it's, if I think about how I am today and how I was even 5 years ago, I'm like, wow, Jessica, you're different. And the 5 year ago, Jessica would be like, wow, you're really pushing it. But it feels so good and it feels very aligned. And then I also am seeing ways where I can, you know, uh do more. So like I say all of this and it's really as simple as how many times do you sit at the computer and when your body says I need to go to the bathroom and you're like I'm just going to finish this email. Like but that's how insidious this little stuff is. Like okay, so in that moment I just put work before myself. Or I
Hmm.
just put communicating with this other person before me and my body. How many times are you hungry and you just power through? How many times do you, eat, drink, do that thing that that's not good for you, but it helps you feel better or your mind feel better. So it's just like all of these little ways that we abandon ourselves, and that's really where I'm kind of digging in, and giving myself grace and gentleness around it because it's like I see it, but it doesn't become like that's really like beating up on myself. It's like, ooh, I see that. Okay, so what am I going to do next time? I'm not going to send an email. I'm going to go to the bathroom. So when I feel like going to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. When I actually am hungry, I'm going to go eat. And I'm also going to have things that are around me that I can eat. So just being very conscientious about stuff and seeing it and getting curious. Like, okay, so what happened there? And so I'm shifting my mindset in ways that it feels like this little kind of treasure hunt for boundaries and less like I'm beating up on myself or others.
Hmm.
Um, but then also in that, this stuff like you're talking about starts becoming really natural. Like, oh, it's been 10 minutes. I'm gonna go on about my life. Like, because I just don't have time for this. Like there needs to be more communication about what's going on. And I'm not here to teach somebody that, if you don't show up within 10 minutes, I need you to tell me to, like, no, I don't have time for that. Oh, Jessica, you weren't at the meeting. Yep, I was there for 10 minutes and then I decided to go do something more important. Like,
Yeah.
and then also the whole not explaining things either. You're like, yep. So it's just so fascinating how all this stuff evolves. And then a lot of what you're saying, I really like. It's about this idea of like flipping it back on myself. So not, well, I want a partner that's like this. It's like, no, I want what do I want for my own safety, comfort? And then finding people, places, things that help support that, whether it's a job, a relationship, a friend. Because I think that, and I know relationships, dating right now is a big deal, but it's also like, okay, if we step back from the dating, then also like, where are we making sacrifices in our entire life? And it's like, yeah, the same stuff we make for dating, we make for friends, we make for whatever. And is that
Mhm.
really supporting us, or do we have people around us that are maybe not vibing anymore that we can allow that space to open up for something better? Because I've gone through a lot of things have fallen away, not out of malice at all. It's just like, oh, that's not a good fit anymore. So like find people that are happy to be with you, and I'm going to find people that are happy to be with me, and where we support each other, where we're evolving. So it's really like I'm really kind of turning it back on myself and like, what do I need to be the most comfortable, happy, supported, emotionally balanced? I mean, I had a friend that says, "Are your emotional needs being met?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "You realize that's not just about, other people." And I said, 100%. Said it's
Mhm.
about me, and I abandon myself every day. And so I'm working on not abandoning myself and being playful about it and showing up for myself in every moment to moment and seeing how that changes my life. And it's so fascinating what it looked like. Walking through the grocery store looks different to me than it
Mhm.
did, 6 months ago. So, like, little things, my life is changing.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I've started to realize is that for me personally, I think that a pretty good indicator that we are abandoning ourselves or that we have the potential to abandon ourselves is when we start to get like angry or resentment or resentful towards someone else, because right, we project so much onto other people or to other places or situations in our lives that it's like, okay, yes, this could be happening, like you said, right? This could be happening in this relationship, but also stopping and asking yourself, like, where do I do this to myself? Where do I, because right, if it didn't bother you or if you weren't, because sometimes people do stuff and we're like, yeah, whatever, like it doesn't, I don't really care. But it's interesting when you start to notice, like, oh, this doesn't feel right in my body, or I don't feel safe, or I already feel resentful because, right, to be honest, I didn't want to go out with the person anyway. So I was like trying to convince myself and trying to talk myself into it. Well, let me just be open. And then finally, I realized after 35 minutes, I was like, yeah, this is just confirmation. Like, I was trying to override like what I was feeling or what my gut was telling me. Because, right, I am an emotional projector. So it's like I do have to wait for that wave. And I think that's what was happening is like I was trying to be intentional and I was trying to be kind and I was trying to be open and et cetera, et cetera. So, for some people, you might say, like, oh, that's not a big deal, whatever. But for me, it just made me realize, like, oh, this is something that's like important to me, and I want my words to match my actions and vice versa. Um, so right, it is the actions that I noticed of another person, but also like bringing that back to myself and being curious about how I treat myself and how I show up for myself. Because the self abandonment thing is, I think it's probably something that a lot of us are moving through right now. Um, and it can be very easy to focus on, right, good or bad. It can be very easy to focus on another person, right? Either to avoid your own needs, right? We can become overly invested in another person or, giving to them like more than what we're actually giving to ourselves, or
Yeah.
vice versa, like taking things that or putting up with a situation that actually doesn't feel good to us. There's so many variations of it. It's like the human cocktail of lessons that we can get. Um, so I wonder, like, what. I wonder planetarily if it's still that, because we touched on it briefly like a few weeks ago with Pluto being in Aquarius, if it is such a this generational theme that's coming through, or if there's other energy right now that's like,
There is Sedna. I think Sedna's in Gemini,
hmm
and we have Uranus in Gemini.
yeah,
So I'm fairly certain. I'm fairly certain that's what we're going through right now.
yeah. And I mean, we tend to all we a lot of us learn through relationships. I mean, I think that
Mhm.
that's kind of how we're designed. You don't really see your patterns, you don't really see your needs until you start interacting with other people. And um, yeah, so it is. I think it's certainly just a theme that, maybe as a collective that we're kind of healing through. And then also there could be other activations that are happening right now.
Yeah, well, there's a lot, and it's really there's a lot of activations. I mean, even if we think about Uranus and Gemini, how we communicate,
Hmm
um, how, this it's just stuff is kind of popping up and destabilizing things. And we moved out of Uranus and Taurus, where there
hmm
was that kind of stability, and it kind of slowed it a little bit. This is a very dynamic um placement. But
hmm
yeah, there is this collective around, a lot of I hear from a lot of people like there's a lot of emotions that come through that they're not really certain where, like, I don't know if this is mine, I don't know if this is the other, I'm
hmm
feeling it. So there's a lot of that piece. So it
hmm
kind of everything about what I've hear when I talk to people about what they're experiencing comes back to the self-abandonment. So this feeling is happening. Is it mine? Is it not mine? So Pluto and Aquarius, how are we interacting with the collective? Well, we still need to maintain our sovereignty, right? No matter what's going on. And I have some pretty strong Aquarius uh, placements. So that for me has become like my mantra is like, okay, I'm feeling this. Is it mine? Is it the collective? Is it other? And then let me ground back into what is mine.
hmm
So that's different ways that we can abandon ourselves energetically. Like we're going along with this
hmm
emotion, or we read something and now we're enraged or we're sad. Like, okay, we were just influenced by something. And it moved us in whatever direction. But where are we really at? And that's where I say this is not about being hard on yourself or like, oh, I can't believe this. No, like it's about being curious and fun. Like, woo, I just got riled up about something. Like, is that me? Is it not? Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But it's fun to kind of play this little game of, where's this coming from? And if it's mine, then what am I going to do with it? And if it's not mine, then I feel that and I'm able to move back to center. And it just
Yeah.
feels so good to be in this place of what is mine? What is mine? What is mine? The more I do that, I find myself having these spontaneous moments of bliss. I'll just be walking through and like just realizing that moment, like everything is exactly the way it should be. Everything is perfect. So I feel like that's like the goal of sovereignty is to really move us into our own middle, move us into our awareness of the present moment. And in this moment, like, how am I doing? Well, in this moment, everything's great. So, like, if it is mine that I'm getting riled up about, like, okay, is this something in the past or is it something in the future? When I bring myself back to this moment, what's going on? So, just really responding to, as a sacral generator, responding to what's actually happening right now. So if
hmm
this is causing, if this moment causes for anger or happiness or sadness, great, but let's be here and then let's allow everything else to kind of disentangle. Um, and I feel like, this Uranus and Gemini for me is really showing up with the mind, like all of these patterns that I had before that I worked through, are starting to
hmm
show up again. And I'm what is going on? And I just realized the other morning because I started waking up with the morning nonsense and the worry and the random feelings of shame. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I've moved through this, I've worked through this. And it's like, okay, well, what did I do in the past? Okay, we're going to just do that. Like,
hmm
nothing to feel shame for, just filling myself with love. And I realized too that there's a lot less like shifting of negative emotions, whether it's anger, sadness, rage, whatever, and more of finding places in my own being that were numb. So where
Mm,
am I numbing out and where am I dissociating? And then sitting with that, because that, let me tell you, is a wild freaking ride. Um, so it's just like bringing up all the stuff that needs to be addressed still. And then, like, where am I numbing out and dissociating from life? And how is that affecting me? I'm not bringing
mm,
my full life force through. So it's a lot. It's a lot for all of us. And we're
yeah.
all doing the best we can to cope. And like I told you, like, apparently I have this new Sunday ritual where Saturdays I do a whole bunch and Sunday I don't. I just rest a whole bunch. And that's okay. So giving us that space to know, like, okay, I need rest.
Hmm. I want to point out something because it keeps popping into my head, and I think I also need to be reminded of this. So with the outer planets, right? Pluto, Aquarius, Jupiter, Saturn. I mean, really, what else? Neptune, right? They're more generational or intergenerational planets. They move very slowly. So, right, even Uranus changing signs,
Every
it's
Saturday.
typically in a sign for about 7 years. So, right, Uranus is a very like kind of unstable energy, right? Like things come in very quickly and they change. And in Taurus, like Taurus is that grounded, steady, like almost stubborn, right? So we've spent
Mhm.
the last years being 7 years being in that like grounded, yes, things were happening, they were changing, but we might have still had a tendency to like want to hold on to making things feel comfortable, right?
Mhm.
Gemini, Uranus in Gemini does not feel comfortable for me. And it's funny because I'm a Gemini.
Yeah.
Um, so you would think I would be, and I probably am more familiar or okay with it, right? Because my son is in Gemini, but Uranus energy and Gemini energy, they can be very unpredictable. And
Yeah.
we just transitioned, right? So when you go from being in an energy and in a sign for 7 years, and then you are in those beginning degrees, you feel it more, right? Because your energy is still like acclimating to it, like, oh shit, I was in this Taurus vibe for 7 years, and now all of a sudden I'm in this Gemini vibe. So I think it is a lot of us who are in tune like energetically and we feel things a lot more deeply, like we are noticing it, we're noticing our own shifts, we're noticing the collective. And then the other thing that came through, so I did a healing ceremony like last month, and I that has been like such a struggle for me. Like I never was able to identify other people's energy that I was feeling just
Mhm.
because I'm so open energetically. Like, again, lots of factors, like part of it's coping from childhood, et cetera, et cetera. But um, I love, like, I feel like that's such a good first start is to just ask, like, is this mine? Because it does kind of get you in tune with, well, I'm not sure, or no, it's not mine, or yes, it is mine. But when I was talking to the facilitator, the other thing that he was saying, and that, I think I also realized like during the process, even that can be kind of misleading, right? Like it's not actually even mine. It's not mine, right? There's still like all these energies and these feelings that yes, we're experiencing, or they might be hitting up against stuff that is ours, right, in our body, but that energy isn't mine. It's going to pass through me, right? It's going to trigger this thing in me. I'm going to feel it, and then it's going to pass through me, and maybe hit somebody else along the way. Like, but it's even our attachment to like, oh, this is mine or it's not mine. And I totally get what you're saying. I think it is helpful. Like that has certainly been helpful for me and something I continue to see. Like a lot of the things that I'm reacting to and that I'm making up stories about, it's not even shit that's mine. It's like these energies I'm feeling from other people, right? Somebody else is sad about something or they're having an emotion, and like I'm feeling it and I'm making it about me. And then I go into this whole rabbit story of like stories and, about a situation, and I'm making something um, be like this huge problem in my life. And really, it's not. It's just that I had this emotion or this energy come through. I didn't have context for it. So then my brain wanted to like associate something with it. So that has also been fascinating to just, to stop and ask the question, oh, okay, is this mine? Oh, no, it's not. Um, so I don't need to make up this whole story about what that energy means. I can just feel it and let it pass through me and move on with life. I
Yeah.
where was I at the other day? Oh, yesterday it happened. I was in a group of people and I was fine, having fun. And then I went to the bathroom and I started crying. And I'm like, that's weird. Well, I had walked by and touched somebody in the group.
Ah.
And because I'm very like intuitive with touch. So I realized after I went to the bathroom and cried, I'm like, oh, I think she needed that. And then also because I physically touched her, I thought it was my sadness that I was feeling. And I was like, oh, okay. I just cried because I felt it. And then I didn't attach a story to it. I didn't attach meaning to it. I was just like, all right, I feel this energy moving through me. Let me move on with it and like go back out and do what I was doing. Whereas before I would have, I
Mm.
would have been upset for like the rest of the day or what I would have kept coming back to it. And I'm probably still, because I'm learning all of this on a deeper level. But we abandon ourselves so much energetically and dropping out of our own space, right? Because we feel the things in the collective, right? There's a lot of things that are happening in the world. There's these astrological energies that are kind of triggering a lot of us. So um, I think that is such a powerful question to start to ask yourself. Like, is this mine? What is this? Where is it coming from? Do I need to do anything with it? Can I just feel it and let myself release it and like move on with what I was doing? I had a conversation with a friend earlier. It was like, she noticed that I was having feelings about something. And I told her, I was like, it wasn't a big enough deal for me to like come and have a conversation with you about it. Like I noticed it and I had a feeling about it, but it wasn't enough that I was like, cause she's going through a lot right now. And I just was like, it's not really that big of a deal for me to like, it didn't affect me so much that I needed to have a conversation with her about it, but she was feeling it. She was feeling me pulling back a little bit. And I was like, we're good. I kind of had to do the internal math. Like, is this even important enough for me to say something? No, it's not. So I'm just going to adjust and do what I need to in the moment and then move on with things. But I think a lot of us are kind of feeling things a little bit more heightened, right? Because of that Uranus Gemini energy. It's like our nervous systems are probably a little bit on, what would you say? Like, um,
We're dysregulated.
yeah.
I mean, there's lots of downloads, lots of energy, lots of new stuff coming through. We're dysregulated and
Mhm.
feels like grounding's a full-time job to even
Mhm.
get in any semblance of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I love what you said too, because like they're even in clean relationships. I've had a couple of people that I've had friendships with, and they were highly triggering, like highly triggering. And it was my stuff. It was my stuff.
Mhm.
And the great thing about that was they kind of believed in this idea that, you deal with your stuff. If it actually is a relational thing, let's talk about it. But if it's not, let's deal with our triggers. And
Mhm.
I just loved it because there wasn't a whole lot of over processing. There wasn't a lot of anything. Like if I felt triggered, then it was up to me to, you know, am I triggered? Is this actually something that we need to discuss? Like just being very clean in how we interact. And it allowed me to have a lot of responsibility for myself and for how I choose to self-soothe and how I choose to deal with myself when I'm triggered. So I love that. Like, just because you're having a conversation and something comes up, like in that moment we get to sit with it and maybe go to the bathroom, maybe sit with it, maybe kind of parse away at it, and if it's something that we do actually need to bring in, then we do that. But to believe that everything that we feel in a conversation is the other person's fault that needs to be processed is wrong. And it
Mhm.
just made like it just felt like wow, like it in some ways I was like, okay, Jessica, put your big girl pants on, because are you really going to be what you say you want to be? And that is, I want to be responsible for myself. So that involves
Mhm.
my communication with others. And just because I'm triggered, it's not their fault.
Mhm.
They have the interaction with them has triggered something inside of me for me to then look at.
You
So I
know,
really love that piece.
yeah, and actually I think that segues into something that is really important to talk about because and again, this isn't anything that I say because right, I can see both sides of things, which can sometimes be a blessing and a curse, but right, if you read stuff online or if you're on social media, it's like, well, if you're being triggered by somebody, it means that they're not healthy for you or that you need to leave the situation or that situation's not good for you. I don't necessarily believe that that's true all the time, right? For instance, like I could take my job as an example. The job that I've had for the last year has been extremely triggering for me in so many different ways, like so many different ways. But in my heart, I knew that I was supposed to be there. And I know that I'm learning so much. I know that I'm developing so much. I know that it's pushing me in a lot of ways that I'm going to look back on, and that I'm, in however many years, like it's going to be one of those really pivotal experiences of my life, or however long I'm here for. Um, but right, if I took it just literally like, oh, this is triggering me, I have all these feelings about it, that means that I shouldn't be there. I don't think that that's true.
Mhm.
So, right, and rather than me blaming the organization or me blaming the people or whatever, a million different ways as human beings that we could make it about something other than us, bringing it back to myself, like, oh, okay, what do I need, right? If I'm feeling triggered and if my nervous system is feeling all of these things, like, what do I need to give to myself to feel safe? What do I need to,
Yeah.
right? This situation is pushing me, it is forcing me to break out of old habits and patterns. Like, what can I give to myself to make myself feel more safe and more grounded as this is happening? So I think it can come up right when you're dating somebody, or when you are falling in love, or in friendships, or in, right, so many different situations in our lives where we can be triggered. And if we fall into that belief that anything hard or challenging or um, triggering for us means that it's not good for us, I think that we can set ourselves up to miss really beautiful opportunities, because we think that if it's right, that it has to be easy. And I do think there should be some flow to it. That's, I think, flow, not necessarily that it's going to be easy, right? It's, you can tell when life is naturally flowing you into a situation versus um, something that it feels like you're trying to force ease. I mean, what would you say about that? Do you feel like that's shown up for you? And I feel like you've also, in your job situation, that you've had some of that.
Well, and I think I like this idea, like this discussion around being triggered, right? Because that's
Mhm.
where this all comes from. So just because we're being triggered doesn't mean that that's a sign to leave. You're exactly right. Now, should we stay in abusive situations? Absolutely not. Like that's the line. Abusive is the line. But if
Mhm.
we're feeling triggered, then we have to ask ourselves a lot of questions, like am, you know, am I feeling triggered beyond my ability to kind of refine my center?
Mhm.
Because it's like, what is a trigger? It's an opportunity for you to meet your nervous system and figure out what's going on. So there's
Mhm.
a part, it's like, hey, I need to be healed because this doesn't makes me feel not safe. So then it's about finding time and skills and resources to help us rebalance our nervous system. And so then it could be, well, maybe I don't interact with this as much because I feel triggered frequently. So we reduce the level of interaction. And then there's sometimes where it's just like, could I learn something from this? Yes, I could, but it's so triggering that it causes me to just shut down, so no growth can come from this.
Mhm.
Okay, then move on. Like that's
Mhm.
fine. But I feel like, and I think that that's why I've probably stayed in some really challenging situations. Um, because there was something there. Because,
Mhm.
you feel triggered by this, it's going to show up somewhere else. The universe is like, yeah, let's not just make it about this. Let's show you like three or four
Yeah.
times. Like, are you going to deal with it now? And it's like, yeah. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm not one to back down or to leave situations unless they're so destabilizing that I can't get my nervous system back. Um,
Mhm.
Usually what I do is I reduce the amount of frequency that I interact with this thing that triggers me until I can better understand it, till I can heal from it. And what I've actually realized is like when I take it on and I'm like, okay, I need to reduce whatever, like that's where I find people come and go out of my life. So
Mhm.
it's like, that's a sign of me of like accomplishment. Like you get an A, Jessica, because this person no longer triggers you.
Mhm.
Um, and we're talking about like
Mhm.
good people just being their own person. And for whatever reason, I'm triggered. Like, okay, so let me figure that out.
Yeah.
So I think that that's important. And then if, it goes back to like, where is my center? So is it this person or is my life so dysfunctional that anytime this person gets near, it throws me over the edge? Well, what's
Mm,
going on in the day to day that we can't maintain and this thing throws us over the edge? So there's just so many like pieces to this where we can grow because that's what this is about, is it's about
mhm.
growing. Like I'm a little extreme in my view, but I feel like you're either living or you're dying. Like you're either evolving or you're, like you're growing or you're not growing. When we look at plants, they either grow or they die. So it's really like, what are we doing to grow as a soul in this incarnation? And it doesn't have to be work. It can be, like you said, flow. It can be easy. It can just be joyful all the time or whatever. Like it's how you choose your life. Like you can choose not to deal with triggers. Like that's cool. And you can just float around and be happy. And that's cool too. Like if you're truly happy, like, are you really happy? Or are you trying to avoid things so that you can be happy? So it's all about just, in this moment, what we're doing, what are we doing? Are we showing up for ourselves? And are we trying to avoid things so we can just stay in this little bubble? Because that's not going to work. The universe is going to show up and say, hello,
Mhm.
we got a lesson. We can't get away from it. So for me, I'm Scorpio rising. It's like the deep end, there's the deep end, and then there's the deeper end, and then there's the deeper end. Like there's no shallow for me. Um, and that's where for me, for my nervous system, I actually have to like step back and say, okay, we can, go a little bit slower, take things a little bit easier, because I have a tendency to just lean in and then destabilize myself. So it really, all of this to say, it really just comes back to what we're doing with ourselves. When I'm in a really good place,
Yeah.
meditating, doing what I need to do, you can bring anybody across my path and I'm sitting there, I'm good. I got this.
Um, let's see, anything else? So can we talk a little bit as because we were going to keep today a little bit shorter because we have some fun stuff coming up for y'all that we're going to plan on, but maybe it would be fun for us to end with a few things that are helpful for the
Yes.
nervous system to make sure that we're grounded. I was thinking about that earlier, like just some things that have helped me. So for me, like physical activity is huge, and especially physical activity in groups. I just find that like my sense of play comes out a lot, which is like really important for me when I find myself like ungrounded or feeling very overwhelmed, like being in that space of group playful energy. And then also nature. Like I was going to go get outside today and like get out into nature, and it started raining. So I had maybe 10 minutes, I guess, before the rain caught up with me. And even just that, like those 10 minutes, I could just feel my nervous system like, it was kind of elevated. I was feeling some emotions. I didn't sleep good last night. The dog was up at 2 a.m. with the thunderstorms, and then I was having dreams. So I was already just a little elevated, but like being in the woods for 10 minutes, I felt so much better after I left. Like I wanted to spend like hours there, and then I was going to go to the beach, and I got rained out, so it was fine. But even just those 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So right, there's herbs that you can take, um, which I'll let Jessica talk about because she's a lot more informed on that than I am. If you want to, I'm not volunteering you for anything. Meditation is also very helpful. Those are so yoga meditation for me. Um, because I know that you shared like passion flower with me, Jess. Is there anything else that is really supportive for nervous system
Yeah,
calming you
so
want to share?
calming for the nervous system. And I will say, talk to your doctor before you take anything, blah, blah, blah. I am not a whatever expert in this field, but for me, passion flower works really well. Um, Chamomile tea is delicious. Passion flower, chamomile, blue vervain is another one. So we talk about nervines. They're things that help calm the nervous system or nourish the nervous system. Um, Passion flower, blue vervain, chamomile, lemon balm. Lemon balm is great. So
Mm,
any of those individually, you can go online and people have like one of my favorite things that I'm doing now is I am growing my own herbs and edible plants, whether they're like, I think one of them I have is Egyptian spinach. So I've got all these different little plants that you can kind of nibble on that are yummy. So growing my own herbs and then also like going to the apothecary and buying things and making teas. So
Mm.
one of my favorite things to do these days is to make a tea, and they'll even blend it right there. I'll go there and I'm like, hey, what do you think? And I think one of them I have is chamomile, rose, lavender, and lemon balm.
Ooh.
And it's all in one. They put it all together, and I pour some hot water over it, let it sit for 20 minutes, and I drink it. And I just feel like something just steps off the gas.
Mm.
So I would say if you have a local herb shop, stop by and ask them. Oftentimes, like the one lady I was speaking to was an acupuncturist and an herbalist. So she had a lot of
Mm.
really good knowledge and she gave me some good things. So getting as close to the source, like that's what grounds me. Like going out, completely unplugging in my gardens, walking in nature, meditation, breathing
Mm.
exercises, but unplugging, like getting away from technology
Mm.
and getting just in with our own selves. And so those things are important. Like those things are like kind of what front loads us.
Mm.
But what I have found to be very powerful is the moment to moment exercises. Is this mine? Is it not mine? Like, and just paying attention. When I started showing up for my body and it was like, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry, like, I'm going to eat when I'm actually hungry. I'm going to go to the bathroom when I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to, every hour, like taking pauses throughout the day just allowed me to slow down. So it's like the difference between tapping the brakes throughout the day or slamming on the brakes. And most of us slam on the brakes if we're lucky. So it's like, how can we tap the brakes throughout the day to really be there for ourselves? And then things come into more awareness. So it's like Robin and I have been doing a lot of work for many years, decades at this point. And it's all of this little stuff, being kind to ourselves and just like it just takes time. And I notice as I slow down, I see more stuff
Mm.
that I can work on or that I enjoy about myself, both positive, negative, whatever. And the best thing I ever did to myself was start giving myself grace and giving others grace. Now I'm working on being gentle. So now that I've decided to give grace to everyone and not decide to give everybody a hard time and myself a hard time, how can I be gentle? How can I be more gentle? So it's this level of evolution, change that we're working on, small steps. We have Uranus and Gemini. I've noticed my mind is just like racing, like 1,000 miles an hour. Like Uranus is forcing me to deal with how my mind works. And am I working for my mind or my body? And so it's like, okay, choice point, go into the body. Choice point, go into the body. Slow down. So I would say it comes down to all of this stuff. Like for me, it's fun. For other people, it may sound like work, but that's where it's like find joy. Pause,
Mm.
doing something joyful. Pause, doing something fun, like you said, being around people and doing activities. And ultimately, it comes back to sitting down and centering everything around me. What do I need to feel safe, comfortable, happy? Making a list. We were talking about like what is I know when I was raised, it was like, oh, make a list of the perfect partner. And like that's who you want to find. And it's like, no, I want to make a list of what I think would be perfect. Like for me, like what's like not the perfect Jessica, but like I like to have warm, comfy sheets when I go to bed at night. I like to have a hot glass of herbal tea makes me super excited. Like making lists of things that make us feel safe and comfortable and happy and doing more of that. We like people to be on time, 15 minutes late's too much. That's cool. Now I just became aware of my boundary. I really like communication. So I don't know. It's a lot of different stuff, but it's like what I'm trying to say is get to know yourself. Like take yourself on a date. Find out like get to know you.
Mm.
You have your answers. You know what's best for you. And we just don't listen to each other. And we've been taught by our culture to override what is best for us. It's like stop doing that.
Yeah, I was laughing because I think it's so ironic that because sometimes I am not great at time. I mean, every time we schedule something. So it's ironic to me, but right, if you told me like, hey Robin, that really bothers me, like it's something I would definitely work on. But I feel like there is a right, it's even like the little nuances of that, what are um there's nuances to things, right? Like we adjust to people's personalities and how they show up, and right, like when we start to notice like things that we need to share versus things that like we're working on internally. So it is kind of this dance that we do both internally and externally. um and I think it is really beautiful when we get to that point. And I feel like I'm still figuring it out, like all of us, like, and again, relationships can be the thing that really shows us all of these areas and all of these things we're working on. So just know if you find yourself really frustrated, annoyed, et cetera, with somebody, it actually is a beautiful opportunity for you to start to be curious about, okay, well, what is this showing me about what I need? What is this showing me about what's important for me and the things that I desire in my life? Because I think it can be really easy to make our unhappiness or our frustration or whatever, insert whatever energy or feeling, we can make that be about our job or our partner or our friends or our dog, even our kids, all of these things that like are external situations and mirrors really to like what's going on internally. So um just being curious about it, right? We're all doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
And like Jessica said, neither of us is saying to abandon yourself or to stay in a situation that doesn't feel healthy or that doesn't feel supportive or loving or kind. But also, it's not, I think sometimes we can run from things or avoid things that are actually an opportunity for us because we don't like the way that it makes us feel, or we're not willing to like sit with something and to be curious about what it's trying to show us. So, right, everything is such a balance in life. It's like, which Gemini is very much about that balance, like seeing both sides, seeing both sides of things. So yeah, there are challenges with that. There are a lot of blessings that come from that. Um, but yeah, let us know how you guys are feeling. Let us know of anything that you use personally to kind of get your nervous system to that place of feeling calm and more grounded. Let us know how you're feeling. I think there's a lot happening for a lot of people collectively right now, which then we all feel, even if we're not aware of it or tuned into it necessarily, we're all being affected by the energies that are happening in the world. Jessica shared something with me that like I was feeling without going into it like in detail, but I was feeling, wasn't I like angry, or I was feeling something around men. I can't even remember what it was. And then when I talked to Jessica, she's like, "Oh, well, did you hear about this thing that's happening?" And I'm like, "No, I had no idea." But it was interesting because it was mirroring like how I was feeling about men. And like I think men are wonderful, right? I don't think that all men are, etc. Insert whatever. Um, but in this moment, I was having like a very generalized feeling or experience around men. And then when Jessica shared with me, like that something had come out in the collective that could make us feel a certain way about men, I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like it was kind of rubbing up against my own wounds that I have around men and relationships and partnerships, because this energy collective is being brought to the surface right now. So just be aware of that. The feelings that you're having, the experiences you're going through. Yes, it's nuanced, and yes, it's layered, and yes, it's, your experiences do have a component to how you're receiving that, but also there is a bigger impact that you could be feeling from the collective energy. So just again, kind of being curious about that, asking yourself, oh, is this my energy? Is this something that I'm feeling from the collective? Like, what could I do to move through this? I think it's a good place to just start and to be curious and just ask the question. I mean, I didn't even ask the question for a long time because I didn't think I'd be able to tell the difference. But even just asking the question, like, is this mine? You will start to tune in. Like you ask yourself enough times, you'll be able to identify yes or no, or maybe not. Maybe I don't know. And that's also an answer, right?
Well, and one of the things that's helpful too is it's like, just keep asking questions. So is this mine or not? Or like, is this mine? Maybe you don't know. But what I will do is, well, how am I actually feeling right now?
Mm,
And that right there, if I feel a difference, even in the very subtle energy of my body, that's not mine. Like,
mm,
how am I really feeling? And tapping into that. But yeah, we're in a time right now, moving up through 2027, where there's going to be a lot coming out. Like even I listen to Pam Gregory, I listen to a lot of these other astrologers. Like this is a time of stuff coming out into awareness, and it can be very triggering. Like it can be very destabilizing. So it's like, well, same thing like we said about people. For me, I want to say 10, 10, almost 13 years ago, I stopped watching the news. Like
mhm.
I consume information, like I will read it, I will briefly talk to people about it and ask questions. I do not listen or watch anything news related because that is not how it's going to come in. Like it's like I'm not going to take a hot bath in oil, right? Even with, my tea, I'm going to take a sip at a time. I'm not going to be just letting it be thrown at me. So I'm very careful about how I intake things, whether it's food, whether it's something I watch or I listen to. Like I protect my sense gates. I watch who touches me. Like there's just if it is going to come in through my senses, I monitor that. So that's like I know some people that are just like constantly drawn in by the news and they feel very destabilized by it, all this stuff that's going on. Um, and there's a lot coming forward. Is it there to polarize us? Maybe. Some people think it is. Ultimately, I know that we are all one, that their world is full of beautiful people. And that's and I also accept the reality that there are people out there doing wild stuff, doing horrible stuff, and they've been doing that for a really long time. So it's about what we focus on. It's about being aware. Because, like I said, I was aware of this, like, yeah, Robin. Because in this week, I've had several people come up to me and saying, I'm feeling completely enraged. I can't stand it. It's like, okay, is it yours? Nope. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I also like depending on who the person was, I shared like this is coming up in the collective or this is not because it's like I'm not going to be the one who's like dumping all this stuff on you. If you wanted to know, you would look it up. So it's just really important that we are our own gatekeeper. We choose what's coming in and what's not. It's our boundaries. And it's like you set a boundary and it can change. I used to be a big time person because I felt like it was disrespectful. And now it doesn't matter as much because I
Mhm.
trust the universe in a different way.
Me
So if
too.
I
Yeah.
get caught up and I'm like before we got on tonight, I was doing dishes and doing all this stuff and I just know in that moment that's really what I needed to be doing.
Hmm.
And then, I come and talk to you and you were doing something else. So it's like if for me, that boundary of time was really good until it started being harmful for me.
Yeah.
And I was using it to push my own limits. Like, Jessica, you're not on time. I'm like, nope, we're not going to have the Punisher get something else to chew on. We're good.
Yeah.
So we get to change our boundaries. We get to see what things are like from moment to moment. Uranus is in Gemini. We've got to be fluid. If it works right now, then we do it. Um, so yeah, how am I feeling in this moment? How am I feeling? What do I want? And that's pausing, pausing throughout the day. In this moment, what do I need? How do I feel?
Yeah.
And just checking in with ourselves like we're the most important person in the world. Like I know there's some people like just like, oh, I want to check in with you every day, or you're dating somebody and you want to check in every minute. Okay, well, like do that for you. Like
Mhm.
do that for you. You're the most important person. So what do I need right now? If I was in love with myself, what would I be doing?
Yeah.
Are you okay? Have you eaten? Do you feel
Hmm.
comfortable? You want something pretty? You want some pretty flowers in your office? Like
Yeah.
whatever. So it's really about focusing on us and then seeing how that shifts.
Yeah. That's been such a huge thing that I've been working on over the last probably year or so. Um, is just those like micro but consistent, like
Yeah.
where normally I would be really hard on myself. Like I started a new hobby about a year ago, And right, I would get so annoyed when I would make a mistake. And now, even if I miss something, I'm like something that I would not even have gone for before, I'm like, oh, good job. Or like at the end of the day, like I'll just sit there and kind of tune in, throughout the day, like, hey, how are you doing? I'm proud of you, like you're doing a good job. So right, the way that I want other people to show up for me, like making sure that I'm showing up and loving myself in the same way. Like I think that can feel silly. Like when I first started doing it, it felt really weird to me. I'm like, am I actually doing this right now? Yes, I am, because I need that. And I don't feel like I'm getting that externally. And I need that right now. So how can I show up and like continue to give that to myself, even though it feels silly, or I'm like, okay, am I really patting myself on the back? Yes, I am. It's okay. Like I'm gonna get, and what has been cool about it is like, I had a friend the other day, she like gave me a hug and she's like, I'm so grateful that like you're here. And she's like, you're always just so positive. And right, like I have my moments. It's not like I'm always like Pollyanna, but in this experience where we were with each other, she noticed like me doing that. And I was genuinely like, hey, great job. Like even when she missed a shot, I was like, hey, like good, I was being genuine. I wasn't being a smart ass. I was like, good job. And, she came over and like gave me a hug and was like very grateful. And I was like, oh, it's cool that, these things that like I'm modeling for myself, that it's also affecting other people in my life. So I felt like that was a really beautiful moment. So you don't know the things that you're going to be doing for yourself that are also going to ripple out, and that other people are going to see you modeling and you showing them that it's also possible for them to treat themselves that way. So yes, continue to spread the love, continue to spread all the things. It
Yeah.
can be rough out there. Be kind to ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, you want to wrap it on up?
Yes. Well, thank you all for joining us with this very active discussion we had today. For those who want homework, sit down and write down what works for you, what helps you feel safe, and then even like Robin said, drop us a comment, let us know what's going on, let us know what you like to hear about. We're going to be talking about all this stuff that's going on and how our lives are changing day to day. So we appreciate you. We hope you have a wonderful time, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night. And now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. Now I don't need to see the road to believe.